Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome in. It is the A Train Sports Talk podcast video live stream. We are streaming on the Riverside.fm platform, also streaming live on YouTube, also on Twitch.tv. This is a very rare Tuesday that I am doing this show on, but there are some things that have happened that are kind of shaking things up in the football world. No, we're not going to talk about that Chiefs debacle last night. There are 13 penalties. We're not going to talk about Travis Mahomes and his uh, pick six return for 99 yards. We're not going to talk about how the defense just stood around while Moses parted the Red Sea and allowed Trevor Lawrence to score the game-winning touchdown for the Jaguars. No, we're not going to talk about none of that. However, we are going to talk about some trades that took place. And I know it may also seem laughable that we're talking about the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals in the not only in the same state but also in the same city. That would also probably seem laughable as well too. But we're going to talk about that, and I hope it is entertaining because it pretty well may end up shaping the career of two quarterbacks that are still left. And the third one, he's probably pretty much an afterthought. He's just there to provide some type of presence, if not just occupying space and collecting a paycheck. Of course, I have to say it, I wouldn't mind being in his position to be on the physically unable to perform list and still collect some of that 240 million that the Browns signed him to. But in case you were living under a rock or something like that, yes, Joe Flacco, the guy that's 40 years old, although it seemed like he's been playing for 40 years, won the Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, was the MVP, and it seemed like that was 40 years ago. I mean, the guy is old, and he's not in Tom Brady's shape. Maybe he should have inquired about the TB12 regimen that Tom Brady was on, and maybe he'd have a little bit more life, and he wouldn't have got benched in favor of a rookie. Which now it is full scale that Dylan Gabriel is QB1. So what does that mean for Shedeur Sanders? Well, that means he's QB2. And he did say a few weeks ago he's ready to play. So in the event that something happens, we will see if he's really ready. But the Browns did trade Joe Flacco plus a 2026 sixth round pick to the Bengals in exchange for a 2026 fifth round pick. Flacco had been benched in favor of Dylan Gabriel before the trade. So the move leaves Cleveland's QB room more open with Gabriel at the top and Sanders moving up the depth chart. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson, the $240 million man, he remains on the physically unable to perform list, or they call it the PUP list, rehabbing from an Achilles injury. So we're going to look at the Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders revised roles and outlook. First of all, let's take a look at Dylan Gabriel. With Flacco gone, Gabriel is now the clear front runner to be the Browns starter, barring injury or a dramatic dip in play. He's getting more opportunity and runway to prove himself. The trade shows the Browns' willingness to let their young QB take on primary roles. May I add, do they really have much of a choice? I mean, you let Flacco go, and all you got was draft what, sixth round, fifth round draft pick. Oh, that's the same round you drafted Shadur Sanders in. I get it. His performing his performance though over the coming weeks will be critical, not just in wins, losses, how clearly he manages games, takes care of the ball, show leadership, etc. So what does that mean for Shadur Sanders? Well, the most immediate beneficiary is Sanders. He moves up to become the primary backup QB2 behind Gabriel. That doesn't guarantee he plays this season. However, Gabriel needs to establish consistency. But Sanders now is more in position to see real game reps, especially if Gabriel struggles or gets injured. Also, with Flacco traded away, the Browns lose an experienced bridge option. The burden to accelerate Sanders' development, however, increases. So, in short, Gabriel is the lead investment now. Sanders is next in line and has a better shot than before. So, where does that leave Deshaun Watson? Where does he fit or doesn't? I mean, he's pretty much been an afterthought in all this. I mean, this is the year that we seen media flock to a third string quarterback, to which I've had conversation with even some of my coworkers. And the Browns, for all intents and purposes, they really, in my opinion, are the ones that is breeding this circus with media flocking to Shadur Sanders. Because I can guarantee you, those of you who are watching this show, there are 32 teams in the NFL, and outside of Minnesota, and I don't even know their third string quarterback's name, and I think he was thrust into action. You cannot tell me the names of the other 31 or 30, if you know the Minnesota Vikings third string quarterback. You cannot tell me the names of the other 31 third string quarterbacks in the NFL unless you are a fan of a certain team and you're that much invested. You know one and you might know two, but I can guarantee that you probably do not know QB3. And in all intents and purposes, like I say, I believe the Browns are the ones that are breeding this circus, but they're also the ones that can put an end to it by making Shadur Sanders off limits to the media. To which now I believe the media frenzy is really going to heighten up. But back to Watson, recovering from a torn Achilles, not to mention his second in consecutive seasons and remains on the pup list. His contract is a heavy cap burden for the Browns, so moving him might be complicated. Because of his injury and uncertain timeline, Watson is unlikely to be a serious contender for full time QB duties this season. So the Browns are treating the 2025 season as more of a developmental window for Gabriel and Sanders. However, if Watson does recover, he might be in a backup or in reintegration role rather than being handed the starting job. But that depends on how Gabriel and Sanders perform and also Watson's health. So here are some possible scenarios and risks. If Gabriel struggles, the Browns might lean on Sanders earlier. or even consider adding or trading for a veteran QB if Gabriel's issues persist. I could see the Browns actually doing something like that just to, well, I'm not going to get into that controversy, but you get it. There's still a Sanders in the room. However, if Sanders excels in backup reps, he could push for starts, especially late in the season, or position himself as the bigger long term option. Watson's return, however, if Watson comes back healthy and looks sharp, the Browns will have a difficult decision, balancing his guaranteed contract, past pedigree, and the momentum Gabriel Sanders might build. So, what? Future trade flexibility? The Browns may look to trade Watson if they see the youth path is more viable, but his contract and injury history make that more complex. Let me just stop right there. The whole thing with the massage parlors and the favors and all the women that came out against him, it should tell you something why come the other 31 teams didn't want to fool with him, but yet he ended up with the Browns. That should tell you about the Browns organization in a nutshell. So, best case scenario is the youth movement pays off. Dylan Gabriel takes command of the offense, showing poise, accuracy, and quick decision making. His college traits, timing throws, pocket awareness, and mobility translate well to the pro level. Establishes himself as a legitimate starter, earning trust from both teammates and coaches. Then there's, once again, Shador Sanders. Learns quickly as QB2, benefits from real time reps and film study, gets spot duty late in games or in specific packages, and shines with his composure and arm talent. Shows enough to make the Browns believe they have two young franchise level options moving forward. Then there's Deshaun Watson again, completes his rehab, but isn't rushed back. Returns late in the season or next year as a healthy veteran mentor, or becomes a valuable trade asset if Gabriel and Sanders take control of the future. Now, I would have one question, and somebody's probably going to say, you're wrong for that. But looking at Deshaun Watson's past, and you hope he's learned from it, but is he really mentor material to Dylan Gabriel and especially Shador Sanders? So the result could be Cleveland transitions seamlessly into the next era without chaos. It's too late for that because they already got the chaos. There's always a mic and a camera shoved in Shador Sanders' face. That's chaos within itself. If he answers the media, he says the wrong thing. If he silently answers them, it's still the wrong thing to do. As a matter of fact, if I was in Shador Sanders' camp and could give him some words of advice, a wise old man told me this, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I never know the nature of who may be watching me, who may be quick to judge me by the words that I use. So I'm going to paraphrase and give the PG version. But a wise old man told me like this: you might whip me, but I'm not going to furnish the stick for you to whip my butt with. You better find your own stick. So I would tell Shador Sanders, when you're dealing with the media, don't give them something that they can use against you and run wild with it. If I were Shador Sanders facing the media. Here's my response as to my position on the team. I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to help my team get better because in this position, being third string, most likely relegated to scout team duties, which means you are getting the team ready for the next opponent. I would tell them to be the best scout quarterback in all the NFL. And if you have any further questions, refer to the coaching staff and leave it at that. And I'm pretty sure somebody would still find something wrong with that, but that would be the best option. Let them find their own stick. Don't you furnish it. So once again, Cleveland transitions seamlessly into the next era without chaos. The locker room rallies around Gabriel and Sanders, and the front office gains cap flexibility to build around them. The middle ground scenario, though, is growing pains. And with rookies, you're going to have growing pains. Can't get around it. So there are growing pains, but promise. Dylan Gabriel shows flashes of brilliance, but also rookie like inconsistencies, turnovers, timing issues, misread. Still does enough to justify continued development as QB1 into next season. Shador Sanders appears in limited action, looks talented but raw. Brown sees potential, but recognizes he needs another offseason to adjust to NFL speed and defensive complexity. Deshaun Watson, rehab drags longer than expected. He's cleared late, but remains a backup or inactive. Browns keep him around due to his contract, but quietly explore trade or restructure options. The result from that, Cleveland finishes near 500, showing signs of a young core forming. The future remains uncertain but optimistic. Decision makers commit to one more year of Gabriel Sanders' development before major roster changes. So we gave you best case scenario. We gave you middle scenario. Now here's the worst case scenario. The quarterback carousel chaos. And y'all know there's a cliche that says if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, he struggles heavily. Turnovers, sack issues, can't push the ball downfield. Loses confidence and possibly his starting role by midseason. Shador Sanders, thrown into action before he's ready, but hold up. He says he's ready. Why can't you believe him when he says he's ready? Inconsistent play leads to growing pains and offensive regression. Fans and media start clamoring for a veteran option again. Deshaun Watson never fully recovers or struggles to regain form post injury. His contract becomes an albatross, limiting the team's ability to sign or trade for other players. With the result being the Browns spiral into another rebuild year, facing a quarterback logjam with no clear starter. Front office pressure intensifies, and the team reevaluates the direction entirely by offseason 2026. So, seeing that Flacco is now pretty much across the bridge from Cleveland to Cincinnati, who would have thought we'd seen a trade between the Browns and the Bengals? What does Flacco bring to the Bengals and what the Bengals needed? The situation in Cincy, with Joe Burrow injured with that turf toe injury, the Bengals needed someone to lead the team while Burrow recovers. Now, here's a disclaimer. The Bengals said they were all in on Jake Browning. However, their previous backup in Jake Browning struggled in extended duty. He's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns and has been woefully inconsistent. So the Bengals couldn't afford to lean on shaky QB play if they want to stay competitive in the AFC North and keep playoff hopes alive. And trust me, that North Division looked like if playoffs were to start today, Pittsburgh Steelers would be the North Division champs. Let that sink in. So the Bengals made a bold move to add veteran stability via Flacco. So let's see what Flacco offers. One, he offers experience and calm under pressure. Flacco is a veteran with decades of NFL experience, and he's played in big games, including Super Bowl MVP performance. That kind of presence can steady an offense when things get chaotic. Secondly, he's familiar with the division. He's played many years in the AFC North, so he knows the defenses and teams he'll face: Ravens, Steelers, Browns. That gives him a slight edge in game planning. This part right here, better weapons now. His receiving core in Cincinnati is arguably stronger, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, than what he had recently in Cleveland. Some analysts see that as a positive change that could unlock more passing potential. He also has a quick release getting rid of the ball. One of the critiques of the Bengals' prior QB play was slow decision making and sacks. Flacco's ability to get the ball out quickly if the offensive line gives him some time, and Lord knows, I went on a radio show last week talking about that very same thing, and I said it to this magnitude, and I know I'm gonna get a whole lot of disagreement right here. But if they don't fix that line and Joe Burrow keeps getting hurt at the rate he's getting hurt, mark my word, I'm going on record and saying this. You can challenge me if you want to. It doesn't matter. I'm going to still stick by it. If they don't fix that offensive line and Joe Burrow keeps getting hurt, I believe Joe Burrow is going to get up one morning before training camp or before the first preseason game, and he's going to pull an Andrew Luck. I'm pretty sure that's not the news that Cincinnati fans want to hear, but ever since he's been there, he's one of the most sacked quarterback, and it seemed like Cincinnati management does not get it. That's your franchise player. You got to keep him upright. They always say the best ability is availability. But Cincinnati, you have to do something about that. You have to invest in your offensive line because even Tom Brady, as great as he was, Tom Brady in his prime couldn't do nothing for y'all with that shaky offensive line. Matter of fact, if that offensive line was those sandbags that they use when cities flood, the river would crest. That's how bad that line is. So Cincinnati, if you want to enjoy Joe Burrow, you need to invest in your offensive line. Also, another point to make: it stops the bleeding. Sometimes the objective isn't to make a massive leap; it's to stop further damage. Flacco might not be a long-term answer, but he could keep the team competitive until Burrow returns. That's the upside. Now comes the downside, the risk and limitations. Age and physical decline. At 40, we know for a fact that Joe Flacco has not tapped into the TB12 diet. Flacco is prone to decline in arm strength, mobility, reaction time. He's well past his prime. Offensive line and protection issues. Even a great QB is vulnerable if the O line breaks down. Flacco will need protection and quick reads. If pressure gets to him too much, turnovers could loom. Analysis point Analysts point out that in Cleveland, he was benched partly for underwhelming performance. Not a long term solution. The move signals the Bengals likely see this as a bridge solution, not the future. Flacco's age and contract situation makes him a stopgap. Limited upside. While Flacco is a stabilizer, he's unlikely to dramatically transform a struggling offense. His ceiling is more modest at this stage. Cost and opportunity. They gave up a fifth round pick to get him, receiving a sixth back. Also, choosing Flacco over more volatile but higher ceiling options means they accepted lower upside in exchange for security. Thus, the Bengals traded for Flacco not because he's the long term answer, but because he's a relatively safe bet in a messy situation. A question, though, that I have posed, and I've heard a few on national talk radio shows pose this as well too. Why not Jameis Winston? Given the Bengals' need, Winston seems like an intriguing option, but there are reasons they might avoid him. So let's weigh that. The arguments in favor of Winston are this: arm strength and vertical threat. Winston is still capable of pushing the ball downfield and making dynamic throws. With receivers like Chase and Higgins, that could unlock big play potential. But the reset shock factor. Winston's arrival would send a message that would send a message. The team isn't settling. Sometimes that shakeup energizes the locker room. Cheap and trade feasible. Winston might not demand as much upfront investment as, say, a blue chip starter. The bridge potential, he could serve as a bridge starter until Burrow returns, if healthy, or until a younger QB is ready. And I don't know that Cincinnati has a younger QB that would be ready. But the risk and reasons Bengals may avoid Winston, the turnover risk. And we know that Jameis, famous Jameis, they call him. Famous Jameis, some people even call him crab legs from his college days. There's a reason for that. We're not going to rehash that. That's in his past. We're going to leave it there. But Winston's biggest flaw is decision making and interception. His past is littered with turnovers, which is a dangerous trait, especially in close games. Bringing in a QB with a high turnover profile might exacerbate problems. Secondly, inconsistency. Winston's history is uneven. Some high yards, big games, but also poor stretch performances. The Bengals may not want to gamble on volatility in this moment. Next is the continuity and execution. Flacco's veteran status offers steadier, low variance play. The Bengals may prefer someone who will rock the boat, who will not rock the boat too much. Organizational comfort. Flacco is known, reliable, available. Winston might require more adjustment in scheme or coaching, especially in midseason. And then there's this right here: reported interest or lack thereof. According to reports, the Bengals did not even call the Giants about trading for Jameis Winston or even Russell Wilson. That suggests either they evaluated and rejected the idea or they didn't seriously consider it. So we look at the cap contract logistics. Winston's contract and compensation demands might not align with what Click with Cincinnati is willing to absorb midseason. Also, trading for him might cost more draft capital or stability. So, in short, Winston is a higher risk, higher reward alternative, but given what the Bengals needed, some stability, less turnover, keeping the season afloat, Flacco may have checked enough boxes better than Winston for their current needs. So now that we got that out the way, I want you all to weigh in. What team won the trade? What team lost the trade? Or did both teams win in the trade? Or would either of you out there looking and listening at this, would you have given the Giants a call for either or? Which I doubt Russell Wilson would be on the trading block because he's their only viable number two for the Giants. But would you at least given Jameis Winston a call? Would you have given the organization a call? Say, we would like to inquire about the availability of one famous Jameis Crab Legs Winston. But that is not all we have for you because as of tonight or this evening, a particular player whose production has dropped because of the emergence of a rookie has demanded a trade. Who might that player be, you're wondering? Well, I am going to give that to you right now. One, DJ Moore is frustrated. His production has dropped off. He's getting less targets. And just when you think things are beginning to look on the up and up for Chicago, seem like Caleb Williams is finally getting it under this new scheme. He has a target, and you would think it would be as long as we're winning, I'm fine with it. I mean, we're seeing this play out with Philadelphia with AJ Brown. One game, for instance, he targeted 9 times, only caught 2 passes for what, like 9 yards a whole game. Is all but said, I want out of Philadelphia. I mean, those things happen. So, who is this player once again? DJ Moore. So, let's travel down to Chi Town, home of the Chicago Bears. We're not here looking for trouble. We're just here to do the Super Bowl shuffle. So the latest news is that DJ Moore wants out. Reports out of Chicago say DJ Moore has officially requested a trade from the Chicago Bears. And let's just be real. This one might have been brewing for weeks. Moore's been one of the most reliable playmakers in the league. But this year, his targets are way down. Why? Because Rome Odunze, the rookie out of Washington, has emerged as the new star in that offense. He's fast, fearless, and he's getting a lot of those looks that used to belong to Moore. So yeah, frustration, understandable. DJ Moore's watching his role shrink while the Bears keep shifting their identity under this new look offense. So the question is it about targets or is it about trust? Because when you look at Moore's numbers, he's still producing when the ball actually comes his way. He's a chain mover. He's a yak machine, which means yards after catch, a leader in the locker room. But if you're barely seeing the ball and your second year QB is building chemistry with another guy, you start to wonder if it's time for a fresh start. So, where could DJ Moore land next? Is the question. Let's break down a few potential fits that might make sense. How about Carolina Panthers? He could return home. It'd be a good storyline, a full circle moment. Carolina never really replaced him. A reunion with Bryce Young could give them the veteran presence they're missing. Here's one: Kansas City Chiefs. Granted, they will be getting Rashi Rice back in a few weeks, but this is just good tabloid, good talk points, to get you talking. But imagine Patrick Mahomes finally getting a reliable wide receiver one again, DJ Moore. Route running and toughness fit perfectly in Andy Reid's system. But let's picture that: DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Rashi Rice when he comes back. That would be a pretty stacked deck. Kansas City's offense would definitely be potent. They probably, if they would have had a receiving core like that, I can just about guarantee you they probably don't lose to Jacksonville last night. Of course, like I said at the beginning of the show, 13 untimely penalties, receivers running routes and not looking back for the ball could have set your team up in field goal position. It's not guaranteed that Harrison Butker would have made the kick because he's been having kick accuracy problems, while these other young gun kickers been booting the ball darn near 70 yards, although it didn't count because it was in the preseason game. As a matter of fact, Harrison Butker was so bad he couldn't even keep the ball in bounds, which in essence gave Jacksonville the ball at the 40-yard line, which means they only had 60 yards to go for a touchdown, and they made Trevor Lawrence look like a Hall of Famer last night. But we're just imagining where DJ Moore could go. Or how about maybe the Buffalo Bills? They've been craving another weapon opposite or since Stephon Diggs. Yes, they pretty much have had wide receiver by committee. Or maybe he would be a good fit along with Shakir Coleman. Then you add more. That'd be a pretty good, formidable receiving core. And maybe one Josh Allen wouldn't have to be Superman, and it could possibly open up their running game with James Cook. These are just some scenarios. Or maybe he could end up with the Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers because they need a steady veteran target to complement Aaron Rodgers and whatever they may have as far as a receiving court is concerned. So what I want to do is I want to know what all this means to you. I mean, NFL's wide receiver era is here. We've got elite talent everywhere, and the receivers aren't afraid to demand their respect. DJ Moore wants the ball, not because of ego, but because he knows his value. And teams like Cincinnati and Cleveland, they're proving that quarterback stability and receiver chemistry go hand in hand. this season just might come down to who keeps their playmakers happy and who doesn't. So, what do y'all think? Did DJ Moore do the right thing by asking out Chicago? Would you trade for him if you're Kansas City or Buffalo? And who wins the Flacco trade, Cleveland or Cincinnati? What I want you to do is I want you to drop your comments below and don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and always be ready to take the ride on A Train. Once again, I want you to know that this show is
Powered by Riverside FM.
that's right, powered by Riverside.fm. Well, until the next time, keep those tickets because the train ride is always free. Also, before I get out of here, I want to thank a few of my newest listeners to the show. Told them I would give them a shout out. Staff over there at, I know some are going to be like, what? Over there at 360 Tobacco and Vape, over there at 6254 East 37th Street North, Suite 170, Wichita, Kansas. For all your CBD needs, Kratom, vape needs, they got everything you need right there at one shop. 360 Tobacco and Vape. Once again, located at 6254 East 37th Street North. I will have their information in my description box that we can go by there, give them a call or give them a visit, tell them that A Train sent you by. Also, shout out to another coworker of mine. I can't find his card right now, but I told him I'd give him a shout out. His name is Ladarian Edwards. Has his own security company, and I will also have his information in my description box. For your security needs, you can give him a call. Like I said, I will have that information. Also, want some good quality headphones. You can find them properly at Best Buy, Walmart. I also believe even at Walgreens. Go get you a pair of these JLab headphones. Good, clear, studio quality sound. As a matter of fact, it amazes me that as long as I've been using these, you hear people like Colin Cowherd and some of the national radio talk shows talking about, go look for the blue box. I was already ahead of the game. But this has been another production of the A Train Sports Talk Video Podcast. Until the next time, take care of yourself, each other. I'm out of here.